My wife admitted she only had our children to keep her ex interested. I only had kids with you to make Ryan see what he lost, Emily said at dinner while our twins slept upstairs. Every time he sees them on Instagram, it kills him a little more inside. The words hung in the air like poison gas. I'd been cutting into my steak, and the knife stayed frozen halfway through the meat. Emily kept eating her salad like she'd just commented on the weather. 8 years of marriage, 5-year-old twins, and she'd just admitted our entire family was built on revenge against a man who dumped her a decade ago. My hand started shaking so bad I had to set the knife down before I dropped it. "What did you just say?" I managed to get out, though my throat felt like sandpaper. Emily looked up from her plate with this casual expression that made my skin crawl. "Oh, come on, Daniel. You had to know Ryan was the love of my life. When he left me for Melanie, it destroyed me. But then I found out she can't have kids." She smiled. Actually smiled, like she was sharing good news. "Multiple IVF attempts, all failed. Meanwhile, look what we made." She gestured upstairs where Sophia and Liam were sleeping, talking about our children like they were trophies in a display case. The restaurant sounds from the kitchen seemed impossibly loud suddenly. The dishwasher running, the ice maker dropping cubes, every normal household noise amplified while my world collapsed. I pushed back from the table and stood up, needing distance from her, from this conversation, from the woman I thought I'd known. Emily didn't even flinch. She took another bite of salad, scrolling through her phone with her free hand. "Look," she said, turning the screen toward me. 3,000 likes on yesterday's photo. Ryan viewed my story within 2 minutes of posting. He always does. The photo showed our twins at the park, matching outfits, perfect lighting, the kind of staged family moment I'd never questioned before. Now it looked like evidence of something sick and calculated. I walked to the sink and gripped the counter edge until my knuckles went white, trying to process what she'd admitted. "You're telling me our children exist to torture your ex-boyfriend?" The words sounded insane coming out of my mouth, but Emily just shrugged like I'd asked if she wanted coffee. "Not just to torture him. I mean, I do love them. They're beautiful kids. But yes, knowing Ryan sees what he gave up, what he could have had if he'd stayed with me, that's been the best part." She stood up and brought her plate to the sink, standing close enough that I could smell her perfume, the same vanilla scent I'd loved for years. Now it made me nauseous. "Besides, you wanted kids too. Everyone wins. Everyone wins. Like our twins were some kind of business deal where all parties profited." I turned to face her, searching her face for any sign of the woman I'd fallen in love with, the one who'd cried at our wedding, who'd held my hand through my father's funeral, who'd sung lullabies to our babies. This stranger wearing Emily's face stared back with cold calculation I'd never seen before. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed next to Emily while she breathed evenly, peacefully, like she hadn't just revealed our entire marriage was the elaborate scheme for revenge. Every memory felt tainted now. The day she'd told me she was pregnant, was she thinking about Ryan? When we'd picked names, decorated nurseries, had she been imagining his reaction to the photos she'd post? I got up at 3 a.m. and went to check on the twins. Sophia had kicked off her blankets like always, and Liam was curled up with his stuffed dinosaur. They looked so innocent, so unaware that their existence had been engineered as weapons in their mother's psychological warfare. I fixed Sophia's blanket and sat in the rocking chair where I'd spent countless nights soothing them through fevers and nightmares. How was I supposed to protect them from the truth that their mother had created them to hurt someone else? The next morning, Emily made breakfast like nothing had happened. Pancakes with smiley faces for the kids, coffee strong how I liked it, fresh fruit arranged perfectly on the plates. She'd already dressed the twins in coordinating outfits, no doubt planning another Instagram post. I watched her help Liam with his orange juice, wiping his chin gently, and wondered if any of her maternal actions were genuine or just part of the performance. "We're going to the farmer's market after breakfast," she announced. "The lighting is perfect there this time of day." Of course it was. Everything in our life had apparently been optimized for maximum social media impact. The twins cheered about the market, excited for the honey sticks and balloon animals. They had no idea they were props in their mother's revenge fantasy, just happy kids looking forward to a fun Saturday morning. I started noticing things I'd ignored before. The way Emily would check her phone obsessively after posting photos of the kids, her face lighting up when she'd mutter, "He saw it." The way she'd spend an hour getting them ready for simple errands, making sure their hair was perfect, their clothes Instagram-worthy. The way she'd positioning them just right for photos, reshooting until she got the perfect image. What I'd thought was normal social media mom behavior now looked pathological. She wasn't documenting our children's lives. She was creating a curated exhibition designed to torment a man who'd left her a decade ago. Even their activities seemed chosen for maximum impact. The expensive music lessons, the boutique soccer league, the perfectly staged birthday parties that cost thousands of dollars. It was all performance, all for Ryan's consumption. I started my own investigation, going through Emily's social media with new eyes. Her Instagram was public, with 10,000 followers, but I realized now it was an audience of one that mattered. Every post tagged with locations Ryan would recognize, restaurants they'd been to together, parks near his neighborhood. The captions were weapons disguised as mommy blog content. So blessed to have these two angels. Can't imagine life without them. Posted on what I now knew was Ryan's birthday. Some people search their whole lives for this happiness. Posted on what would have been their anniversary. The comments were full of friends and strangers gushing over our perfect family, but Emily only ever hearted the ones that mentioned how lucky she was, how beautiful the children were, how some people would give anything for what she had. She was building a monument to everything Ryan had walked away from. A week after her confession, I confronted Emily again, this time when the kids were at preschool. We need to talk about what you said, about Ryan, about why you had our children. Emily was organizing the playroom, sorting toys into labeled bins with the kind of methodical precision she brought to everything. What's there to talk about? I told you the truth. Would you prefer I'd lied? She didn't even look up from her organizing. I'd prefer our children hadn't been conceived as revenge props, I said, my voice harder than intended. That got her attention. She stood up, hands on her hips, looking annoyed rather than guilty. They weren't conceived as props. I wanted children. The fact that Ryan would have to see them, know what he gave up, that was just a bonus. A really, really satisfying bonus. She smiled that cold smile again. You can't tell me you didn't notice how invested I was in sharing their lives online. I thought you were just a proud mom, I admitted, feeling stupid for missing what now seemed obvious. I thought you wanted to share our happiness with friends and family. Emily laughed, but there was no warmth in it. Friends and family? Daniel? I have maybe 12 actual friends following that account. The rest are strangers or… She paused for dramatic effect. People connected to Ryan's circle. His sister follows me, his college roommate, 3 of his coworkers. They all see it, and I guarantee they mention it to him. She pulled out her phone and showed me the analytics. Look at this spike in views. That's from last week when I posted the twins at the country club. Ryan's company had their quarterly meeting there that same day. He definitely saw them playing on the same playground where he proposed to me. The calculation, the planning, the deliberate cruelty of it all made me physically sick. I started therapy the next week without telling Emily. Dr. Karen listened to my story with professional calm, occasionally taking notes, never showing the shock I expected. This is more common than you'd think, she said, after I'd explained everything. Using children as tools for revenge or manipulation. It's a form of emotional abuse, though not typically recognized legally. She helped me understand that Emily likely had narcissistic tendencies I'd missed or explained away. The love bombing early in our relationship, the way she'd isolated me from friends who questioned her, the subtle control she exercised over every aspect of our family's image. The question now, Dr. Karen said, is what you want to do about it. The children are here, they're real, and they need at least one parent who sees them as people, not instruments. That became my anchor. Whatever Emily's motivations, Sophia and Liam deserved better. I started documenting everything. Screenshots of Emily's posts, with timestamps, showing her obsessive checking of views, videos of her staging elaborate photo shoots with the twins, directing them like a film set, recording of her phone calls with friends where she'd casually mention, accidentally, running into Ryan's mother at the grocery store, making sure she saw the kids. The folder on my laptop grew thick with evidence of Emily's obsession. One evening, I overheard her on the phone with her sister. The best part, Emily said, not knowing I was in the hallway, is that Melanie had another miscarriage last month, her 4th, and there I am with these perfect twins, living the life that should have been hers. The satisfaction in her voice made my skin crawl. She was feeding off another woman's pregnancy losses, using our children as salt in those wounds. I consulted a divorce attorney without Emily knowing. Garrett Holbrook was recommended by my therapist, experienced in high-conflict custody cases. I laid out everything, the confession, the evidence, my fears about the psychological damage to the twins. He listened carefully, then delivered the harsh truth. Unless she's physically abusing or neglecting the children, courts don't typically see this as grounds for limiting custody. She feeds them, clothes them, takes them to school. The fact that her motives are twisted won't matter to most judges. The legal system, he explained, wasn't equipped to handle this kind of emotional manipulation. Your best bet is to document everything and hope she slips up, does something that crosses a legal line. Meanwhile, be the stable parent, the one who sees them as people, not pawns. It wasn't the answer I wanted, but it was reality. The breaking point came at the twins' 5th birthday party. Emily had rented out an entire venue, hired professional photographers, and invited over 100 people. The elaborate circus theme, custom decorations, and designer outfits for the twins must have cost $15,000, but the guest list was what revealed her true intentions. I recognized names from her past, people she hadn't spoken to in years, all connected somehow to Ryan's social circle. She'd essentially weaponized our children's birthday party as a networking event to ensure maximum exposure to her ex. Watching her direct the photographer to get specific angles, adjusting the twins' positions repeatedly for the perfect shot, I realized she wasn't present in the moment at all. She was crafting tomorrow's Instagram content, the next knife to twist in Ryan's chest. Halfway through the party, something unexpected happened. A woman approached me while Emily was busy orchestrating the cake ceremony. "You're Daniel, right?" She was beautiful in an understated way, with tired eyes and a sadness that seemed bone deep. "I'm Melanie, Ryan's wife." My body went cold. The woman Emily had been psychologically torturing through our children was standing right in front of me. "I'm sorry," I started to say, not knowing how to finish that sentence. "Sorry your husband left Emily for you? Sorry my wife has been using our kids to hurt you? Sorry for your miscarriages that my wife celebrates?" Melanie held up her hand. "I know what Emily's been doing. We both do. Ryan's seen every single post, every staged photo, every calculated moment. It's been eating him alive." She pulled out her phone and showed me messages between her and Ryan, discussions about Emily's posts, his guilt, their struggles with infertility. "He thinks about your twins every day, not because he wants them, but because he knows they exist to punish him." "Why are you telling me this?" I asked, glancing over to make sure Emily hadn't noticed us talking. Melanie followed my gaze, then looked back at me with those sad eyes. "Because those children don't deserve to be weapons. And Ryan, he's been in therapy for 2 years, dealing with the guilt. He's considered reaching out to explain everything, to apologize, but his therapist says it would only feed Emily's obsession." She pulled a business card from her purse. "This is Ryan's therapist. She specializes in what she calls proxy victims, people who are targeted through others. Your children are proxies. So are you." She walked away before Emily noticed, disappearing into the crowd of guests. I stood there holding the card, realizing the ripple effects of Emily's revenge had damaged more lives than I'd imagined. Ryan was suffering. Melanie was suffering. Our children were tools of suffering, and I'd been an unknowing accomplice to all of it. That night, after the guests had gone and the twins were asleep, exhausted from their party, I found Emily in her office uploading photos. She had 3 monitors set up like some kind of command center, editing images, crafting captions, scheduling posts. "Melanie was at the party," I said from the doorway. Emily's fingers froze over the keyboard for just a moment before resuming their typing. "I know. I invited her through Ryan's sister. Did you see her face when everyone sang happy birthday?" She looked destroyed. The satisfaction in Emily's voice was pure poison. "Those are our children, Emily. Our children, not weapons, not tools for revenge. They're people." Emily finally turned to face me, and her expression was genuinely puzzled. "Of course they're people. People I love, people I created, people who wouldn't exist if Ryan hadn't broken my heart. They're my triumph over him, my proof that I won." There was no reaching her. In her mind, our children's primary value was as evidence of her victory. I started making preparations to leave, opening my own bank accounts, finding an apartment, consulting with Garrett about custody arrangements. The hardest part was pretending everything was normal for the twins' sake, while knowing their mother saw them as elaborate props in her revenge fantasy. Every bedtime story, every morning routine, every family meal felt like a performance I had to maintain until I could protect them properly. Emily either didn't notice or didn't care about my growing distance. She was too focused on her digital war against Ryan, crafting new ways to display our children's perfection to her audience of one. I watched her spend hours editing a single photo, adjusting the brightness to make their eyes pop more, whitening their teeth, smoothing skin that was already perfect. She wasn't seeing our actual children anymore, just the idealized versions that would cause maximum pain to her ex. The custody mediation was brutal. Emily's lawyer painted me as an unstable parent, trying to separate children from their loving mother based on normal social media use. My evidence of her obsession was dismissed as a father uncomfortable with modern parenting and social sharing. Emily presented herself as the devoted mother, showing up with printed photo books of all the activities she'd done with the twins, conveniently leaving out that every activity was staged for Ryan's consumption. The mediator suggested joint custody with Emily as the primary parent, seeing no danger to the children. "Many parents share photos online," she said. "It's not grounds for limiting custody." Garrett had warned me this would likely happen, but hearing it still felt like failing my children. The system couldn't see the psychological manipulation because it was too subtle, too sophisticated for legal frameworks designed around physical harm. I got them Wednesday nights and every other weekend. Those became the only times the twins could just be kids. No cameras, no staged moments, no perfect outfits. We'd build blanket forts, make messy art projects, have dance parties in our pajamas. Sophia started opening up during our time together, saying things like, "Mommy gets mad when I don't smile right for pictures," and "Sometimes I'm tired of being pretty." Liam began refusing to wear the formal clothes Emily picked out, preferring his dinosaur t-shirts and comfortable shorts. They were starting to feel the weight of being props, even if they couldn't articulate it. I documented these conversations carefully, building a case for the future when they'd be old enough for their preferences to matter legally. Every week they'd return to Emily's house and the performance would resume, but at least they had breaks from being weapons in their mother's war. 3 months after the separation, everything changed. Emily called me at 2 a.m., hysterical. "He's dead. Ryan's dead. Car accident. He's gone." Through her sobs, I pieced together what had happened. Ryan had been driving home from therapy when he ran a red light and hit a tree. No other cars involved, just him and whatever demons he'd been carrying. The police said he'd been distracted, possibly emotional, but Emily had her own interpretation. The last thing he saw was yesterday's post, the twins at his old elementary school. I'd enrolled them in summer camp there. He knew that's where he went. He saw it, and then she trailed off, but the implication was clear. She believed her final twist of the knife had pushed him over the edge, and she was triumphant, even in her tears. The funeral was surreal. Emily insisted on bringing the twins, dressing them in designer black outfits like miniature mourners in a fashion spread. She positioned herself where Ryan's family would see her with the children, a final victory lap at his graveside. Melanie stood on the other side of the casket, destroyed by grief, while Emily played the role of concerned ex-girlfriend there to pay respects. I kept the twins at the back, trying to shield them from their mother's performance, but Sophia tugged my hand and whispered, "Why is Mommy smiling when everyone else is crying?" I didn't have an answer that a 5-year-old could understand. How do you explain that Mommy had won her sick game, and even death couldn't dim her satisfaction? That night, Emily posted a black square on Instagram with the caption, "Some loves never die," and I watched the likes pour in from people who had no idea what they were really witnessing. Ryan's death didn't end Emily's obsession. It transformed it. Now she had the perfect tragedy to exploit. The dead ex-boyfriend who'd never gotten to have children of his own. She crafted a whole narrative about teaching the twins to honor Uncle Ryan's memory, visiting his grave with flowers, telling them stories about Mommy's friend who went to heaven. Every memorial post got thousands of likes and comments about what an angel she was for honoring his memory. But I knew the truth. She was dancing on his grave, using our children as props in her final performance. Melanie reached out to me a month after the funeral. She was moving across the country, couldn't bear to stay where everything reminded her of Ryan. "Did Emily ever tell you why Ryan left her?" she asked during our coffee meeting. I shook my head. She got pregnant when they were together. Ryan was thrilled, already picking names. Then Emily terminated it without telling him. Said she wasn't ready, that a baby would ruin her figure, her career plans. Ryan found out from a mutual friend, and it destroyed him. He left that same day. The revelation recontextualized everything. Emily had rejected children with Ryan when he wanted them, then had them with me specifically to torture him with what he'd lost. The calculated cruelty of it was breathtaking. She'd denied him fatherhood, then flaunted it for a decade, driving him to his death. And our innocent twins were the unwitting weapons in this psychological murder. I shared this with Garrett, hoping it would change our custody situation, but the legal reality remained unchanged. "She didn't commit a crime," he said. "Being a horrible person isn't illegal. Using your children for revenge isn't illegal as long as they're fed, clothed, and educated. The law had no provision for souls being poisoned, for children being groomed as instruments of someone else's pain. All I could do was continue being their safe parent, their refuge from their mother's sickness." The twins started therapy when they turned 6. Dr. Angela specialized in children of high-conflict divorces, though even she was shocked when I privately explained the full situation. "I've seen parental alienation, manipulation, using kids as messengers," she said, "but using them as revenge props from birth? That's a new level of pathology." She worked with Sophia and Liam separately, helping them understand that they were valuable for who they were, not how they looked or what they represented. Slowly, they began pushing back against Emily's constant photography, saying they were tired or didn't want to dress up. Emily responded by becoming more manipulative, telling them they were hurting Mommy's feelings, that sharing their lives made her happy. The guilt trips worked for a while, but Dr. Angela taught them boundaries were healthy. "You don't have to perform for love," she told them in age-appropriate ways. "Real love doesn't require cameras." Emily's Instagram evolution became darker after Ryan's death. She started posting about being a solo mom, despite our shared custody, crafting a widow-adjacent narrative that wasn't technically false, but implied a tragedy that didn't exist. The twins became angels who helped Mommy heal from loss, and she started a blog about parenting through grief that gained a massive following. Sponsors reached out, offering brand deals for children's clothing and toys. Emily accepted them all, turning our children into literal commodities. The money went into accounts in their names, which Emily controlled completely. I tried to legally intervene, but since the income was technically for the children and being saved for them, courts saw no issue. The twins were becoming famous for a story that was entirely fabricated, their images sold to market products, their childhood commercialized for their mother's profit, and continued revenge against a dead man. Liam broke first. During one of Emily's photo shoots for a children's furniture company, he threw the biggest tantrum I'd ever seen, screaming, throwing props, tearing off the outfit she'd put him in. Emily called me, furious, saying I'd turned him against her, but when I picked him up, he clung to me sobbing, saying he hated being a picture boy. He wanted to play soccer with his friends, not stand still for hours while Mommy got the right shot. That became our first real victory in court. Dr. Angela testified that the commercial exploitation was causing psychological distress. The judge ordered that both parents had to consent to any paid partnerships involving the children. Emily was livid, but it was the first crack in her control. She could still post personal photos, but the monetization stopped. The sponsors pulled out when they couldn't guarantee both parents' cooperation, and Emily's influencer career collapsed. She blamed me in a series of now-deleted posts about fathers who didn't support their children's opportunities. The real breakthrough came when Sophia, at 7, did a school project about her family. She drew 2 pictures, one labeled Camera Family, showing all of them posing formally, everyone smiling the same practiced smile. The other labeled Real Family showed just her, Liam, and me playing in the park, no phones in sight. Her teacher called me, concerned about the distinction Sophia was making. That drawing became crucial evidence in our renewed custody battle. Dr. Angela explained to the court how Sophia had internalized that there were 2 versions of her life, the performance and the reality. The judge finally began to understand the psychological split Emily had created. He ordered a custody evaluation with a specialist in parental manipulation. The evaluator spent months observing both households, interviewing teachers, reviewing the thousands of social media posts. Her report was damning. Emily's home was described as a stage environment where children couldn't relax or be authentic, where love was contingent on performance. The custody modification hearing was Emily's first real loss. The judge awarded me primary custody with Emily getting supervised visitation until she completed therapy and parenting classes focused on seeing children as individuals, not extensions of herself. Emily's breakdown in court was spectacular. She screamed that I'd stolen her babies, that I'd destroyed her life, that the twins were ungrateful after everything she'd done for them. The judge had her removed from the courtroom. But the most telling moment was when she yelled, "I created them! They're mine! Ryan should see what he lost." Even facing the loss of her children, she couldn't stop making it about her dead ex-boyfriend. The court officer escorted her out while she was still ranting about the injustice, how the photos were art, how the children loved being special. The twins weren't in the courtroom, thankfully, but the transcript would exist forever. Their mother's own words confirming they were props in her revenge play. Emily's supervised visits were painful to watch through the reports. She'd still try to take photos, asking the supervisor if just one for memories was okay, not understanding why she was being denied. She'd bring designer outfits for the twins to wear during visits, getting frustrated when they chose their own comfortable clothes instead. She'd talk about all the opportunities they were missing, the sponsorships that were waiting, the followers asking where they'd gone. The supervisor noted that Emily rarely asked the twins about their interests, their friends, their feelings. Every conversation was redirected to their appearance, their performance, what content they could create together once this misunderstanding was resolved. The twins started dreading visits, asking if they had to go, developing stomach aches and headaches before each scheduled time with their mother. Dr. Angela documented the psychosomatic symptoms, the anxiety manifesting physically. Eventually, visits were reduced to once a month, then every other month, as Emily showed no progress in therapy. The twins are 10 now. They've been with me primarily for 3 years. Their Instagram famous years feel like someone else's life to them. A strange dream where they were dolls in their mother's elaborate dollhouse. Sophia is into robotics and coding, spending hours building things that work, rather than just look pretty. Liam loves basketball and comic books, embracing being a regular kid who can be messy and imperfect. They both still have moments of anxiety about photos, freezing when someone pulls out a phone at birthday parties, asking if they look okay before realizing they don't have to perform anymore. Therapy continues, probably will for years, undoing the damage of being born as weapons rather than wanted for themselves. Emily still posts old photos of them, recycling content from when she had access, maintaining the fiction that she's their devoted mother. New followers don't realize the photos are years old, that she hasn't seen her children properly in ages. She's built her identity so completely around being their mother that she can't exist without the performance, even when the performers have left the stage. I found out recently that Emily's back in therapy, not the court-ordered kind, but voluntary treatment with a specialist in complicated grief. Not grief for our marriage or losing custody, but for Ryan. 10 years after he left her, 3 years after his death, she's finally processing the original wound that turned our children into weapons. Her therapist reached out with Emily's permission, hoping for some kind of resolution that might eventually allow her to have a healthy relationship with the twins. But when I asked if Emily understood yet that our children weren't supposed to be revenge, the therapist went quiet. She's beginning to understand they were hurt by her actions, she said carefully. But separating them from her feelings about Ryan, that's going to take a lot more work. So we wait. The twins grow and heal and become themselves, while their mother remains frozen in a revenge fantasy that consumed everything she claimed to love. Last week, I was cleaning out old boxes and found our wedding album. There's a photo of Emily dancing with her father, but she's looking over his shoulder at someone outside the frame. I remembered now. Ryan had come to the reception with a date, staying just long enough to be polite. Emily had been radiant that day, but now I could see it clearly. She wasn't looking at her father or me or our future together. She was looking at Ryan, making sure he saw her in her wedding dress, marrying someone else, moving on. Even our wedding had been a performance for him. Every milestone, every moment that should have been ours was actually his. The twins weren't the first props in her revenge. I was. The supportive husband, the stable provider, the man who gave her the children she could use to destroy her ex. I'd been cast in Emily's twisted play without auditioning for the role, and it took me 8 years to realize I was just another prop in her elaborate production. The twins and I survived it, but the scars remain. Reminders that sometimes love is just obsession wearing a wedding dress, and children can be born as weapons in wars they never chose to fight.